Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Whoa. I actually kind of like that. I think I accidentally did that where I had on the previous screen turned off that scene. So every time it loads, it drops everything like on first load. That wasn't intentional, but I kind of like it. So how's everybody doing today? We are going to do a bit of a project day, pulling back the like to-do app that we had kind of started on stream 2-3 months ago. I'll we'll see how far we get today, but we might have a couple streams over the next month or so to make some progress on it because I want to start actually using it on stream, and it'll help like organize my thoughts and hopefully help be helpful for y'all. Um, but basically just like a to-do list as we're going through. We can check off things and it'll uh, we'll look at wiring it up to OBS. OBS is the software that I use to stream. And we can grab timestamps. I know y'all have been kind of asking in the comments, timestamps would be great. It's kind of a lot of work to do timestamps. So I need a way to help me out with that. If I'm going to make it something that I can do consistently, if I can sort of like produce the timestamps as we're going throughout in the stream, that'll help me out a lot. So it'll be sort of like a visual and a background, and I think that'll give us a little bit of interesting stuff to work with. We had initially made this to-do app with the store plugin. I think I'm going to tweak that a little bit. The store plugin is fine, but for what we're kind of trying to do with this, I wouldn't mind having an actual like file that we can like dump out. And the store plugin is really meant for that. There's browser APIs and then there's the store plugin, and both browser APIs and the store plugin are sort of meant to be a I'm fidgeting with a a little thing. They're meant to manage state for the user, but in a way that is sort of the user isn't aware of. Obfuscated. Why am I having a hard time with that word? Anyways, and some of them, like especially the browser ones, they are kind of dependent on the existing state of your like local storage, so they can be like flushed, so they're sort of like a longer running cache really than a more permanent storage. The store plugin is intended to be longer running storage, but it's sort of like tucked away in the app data folder or whatever where the user isn't aware of it. I want to be aware of it. I want to save it somewhere where I care about, and I want to have it like the final form be a like a file that I can use. So in some ways this is sort of going to be like a basic Tauri app. I would imagine this is going to look similar to some other apps that folks have worked on. And we're going to we're going to pull in some of the a lot of the work that we had done previously, both in this specific repo but elsewhere. But then we also want to like hook it up with the WebSockets. So with OBS, we can connect to it via WebSockets. So I think it'll kind of be an interesting example. But then it'll scratch my own itch, and hopefully we're killing like 4 birds with 1 stone here. I guess that's sort of violent towards birds, but you know what I mean. Okay, I think we kind of just jump into it. I feel like there was there something else that we were gonna get into too? Oh yeah, well, I mean, I guess Happy New Year. This is the first stream of the year. This is the first stream of the year. So we few bits, I guess, with that. What we're probably gonna do a few streams around. You know, we it might be broken up a little bit, but we're gonna do some streams around this to-do app to get it out and in a place where we can start doing timestamps and hopefully make referencing content within the stream easier. And then we're gonna do some more local first type app. Cat making noises. I kind of want to do. I think we'll do one a local first thing next week. There is we had a stream where we sort of went through like 8 or 10 different local first frameworks or libs. So some of them are a little bit more frameworky. Some of them are a little bit more like functional libs or libraries. And I kind of want to look at I think it was Laurel. It seems very much in the vein of YJS, but with some additional features. So we'll probably just start playing around with some of those. I don't know that any of them specifically have any like direct interaction or sort of like a unique setup that we could put it within Tori. But I kind of just want to explore it, and we'll sort of like fill out our. We have a local first repo where we've just been like dumping these tests. We'll probably fill that out a little bit with some more tests and setups, but I imagine that's what we'll probably do for the next few streams. Kind of bounce back and forth between these two things. All right, well, let's kind of hop on over here. Yeah, I think we just pull it up and we start rolling with it. Apparently I had a branch in progress. Have I not actually pushed that up? I'm not one to do like New Year's resolutions. Timing wise though, like I'm not gonna say it's like convenient, but like we just got through a whole bunch of like stuff, and we got a couple videos out. I had some time off and whatnot, so it was a good time to kind of like button things up and get a reset in here almost. I need to be better about pushing stuff up though. Luckily, looks like we didn't do too much in here, so not too big of a deal. I guess in some ways this to-do app is kind of a helping out with those resolutions. Hey Nicola, good to see you. I'm actually gonna pop right back here real quick. I want to double check to make sure. Are these things doing notifications? I don't want you to do notifications. Okay, we'll turn you off for right now. Did that work? The counter went. Whoop, wrong way. The counter went. I feel like that one's been the one that just has not been working. I got the here. Well, I mean, if I missed it or if it didn't work and I missed it, I've updated that. That looks a lot better. The like thickness of it or the depth of the object is basically like it's a piece of paper almost. But it does still interact with the physics. So if you do like drop as I do a highlight, that is a lot more readable, and some of that was forced because I changed my resolution speaking of like redoing everything, I changed my resolution, and that meant that it kind of made sense to change it along with that. But you know, all right. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna like be jotting things down on the side here too. I need to update the. I feel like there's a whole bunch of things that changed. Like I changed my resolution, the monitor. I like messed around with things to make it more convenient to do recording. But I got like 80-90% on a whole bunch of stuff and didn't notice or didn't realize that I was missing 10% until like I go to use it. I'm like, oh, it doesn't work. we tried to. I think we were having issues with the Stream Deck last week. It's a thing, but all right. So I want to update the window window snapping for streams. Okay, that is definitely out of date now. Now, we have this fixed Tauri API interactions. I don't know what all that entails. Update depths. So it looks like we pushed. Let us. I don't know. I don't even know if I'm actually signed into GitHub on this profile, but if you need, just as a general thing, if you need any links to repos or anything that we are going through, hopefully it's legible. Let me know if it's not. But in my terminal, I use Starship. So the like this bit here, that's all from Starship. So it tells me like what version of Node, although it looks like my ligatures are not working, which is kind of frustrating, but you know, bunch of that seems to have broke. Putting that on the to-do list, I guess. Starship ligatures on Windows. Okay. But yeah, it has the link to the repo. So based on the folder, my folder directory structure matches how it ends up being pushed up and appears in GitHub. So I basically just remove the file folder path and just slap GitHub in the front of it. So then it's convenient for me because I don't have to think about how I should organize it. But then also it's nice for anybody, you know, even if you're just like doing pairing and you're not actually making videos or streaming or anything like that. That kind of stuff is nice for when you're pairing with folks. If like having this prompt here, it completely eliminates the question of, hey, what version of Node are you on? What version of package manager are you using, et cetera, et cetera. Like if it just is here, I think it ends up being pretty nice. So this is what we're going to be looking at. And I guess I didn't push this up. Update to new window API. It doesn't look like we have. I even pushed this up? View all branches. No. Okay. I mean, I guess it probably makes sense to just push this up and go from there. Hopefully you can hear that. That's my cat litter thing. Do you Raju? Raju? Is that right? I feel like I'm mispronouncing that. Anyways, thanks for stopping by. Do you have to use Rust? The last video that I did might be a good explanation slash Rachu. Rachu? I feel like I said it the same way all the times I said it. So maybe I let me know. Yep, good. All right. I do my best to pronounce everybody's avatars correctly, but sometimes they are have a basis in a different language, and it's hard to just guess that basis just off of seeing it. But anyways, the last video that I released went into Tauri commands, and it talks a lot about that. The short answer is it depends. The longer answer is it depends on what you're doing and which plugins you're using, and if you need to thanks for the sub, by the way, if you're watching. It depends on what plugins you're using and if you have to write your own like custom plugins. So as we jump into this, we actually didn't have to do like any Rust in this one actually. Do I have it open right now? We were using the store plugin. We are looking at potentially moving out of the store plugin to the file system plugin, both of which and both of what we're trying to accomplish this is our Rust. This is all effectively generated for us. So in this project, no. I mean, being able to understand this can be helpful. And I did, we wired up the dev tools into this, but that was a part of another stream, I believe. And, but like this is all just generated pieces. So all of our code is in the source directory, and it does the Tauri APIs. Let's see, app baby. So like setup shortcut. So this is our interaction with the like operating system functionality through the plugin. I'm pretty sure all of the official plugins at this point, you will be able to, or all the official plugins have a JS implementation. The vast majority of them are effectively just calling the same through the IPC communication layer. They're just calling Rust effectively. So they should work effectively the same as if you were writing and or using them in Rust. Does that answer your question? Yes, with an or no with an asterisk. And if you want to get a lot more context on it, I think I've got like a 10-minute video or something like that. It's the most recently released video on Tauri commands. Would be a good place to look. Hi. Come on up. Come on. We have a visitor. We'll try to keep it family friendly, no cat butts. Okay. Please don't touch my water though. I don't feel like cleaning that up. All right. Okay, we're moving the water. We're moving the water. Not to be trusted. Okay. So all that being said, I think we will. I'm not quite sure what I was doing there. I don't know that I need to post install anymore. Anyways, I'm going to just push this up, and then we will we'll go from there. I mean, what is this? Update, shrug. Push. And guess we'll do it in a different browser. Kitty, please don't lick my green screen. Yes, you. Hi. I don't think y'all can see it, but that cat is got some fascination with licking my green screen, which just bugs the heck out of me because I just see like things moving in the background because I've got my I can see the green screen in the monitor. It just bothers me so much. Like things moving around in my peripheral vision. All right. Can we split this off? Can I do this? All right. Can we do this? No. No. GitHub. All for just like not having to log in on this browser. So like some of it is just intentional. More and more like I'm getting invites and stuff in projects, and I don't want to show things I shouldn't be showing, but also like, yeah. Okay, well, I guess I did actually. I must have merged this in then. So what fix API interactions. I did. I completely missed it. Okay, so we did push this up. I am going to then go ahead and go here, and we will. Oh, I need to go to view all branches. Delete. All right. There we go. Okay. And back at it. Now we're going to. We'll start running it, and I think we're going to pull in the file system API right away. That'll be the first little bit. A quick tour, as it were. Git checkout. Oh, I suppose I can do. I've got aliases on this computer. I always forget that I have aliases. Git CM checks out the main branch, regardless of what the actual name of the main branch is, and then git fp gets does a git fetch git pull. All right, we're gonna go ahead and just YOLO update everything because we're gonna need it anyways. Well, I guess need is a strong word. It'll be nice to just have everything updated as we're going through and dealing with stuff. There was a little bit of movement here. Which version of React do we want? That's actually a good question. Do I upgrade that right now? React Spectrum. So we have a library pulled in here called React Spectrum, and it is put out by folks obviously at Adobe, one of which is one of the maintainers of or the creator of Parcel.js. So that's one of the I don't think it's a huge bundler, but like Vite, Parcel, Webpack, and RSPack are probably all the largest of the bundlers at this point. Webpack obviously being the one that used to dominate the ecosystem, but React Spectrum and React Aria, which is the sort of like unstyled version of this. React Aria, I've got in other projects. This lets you bring along your styles a little bit more, whereas React Spectrum is the Adobe design system, which for this project we were fine with. Now, I don't see anything specifically with version of React anywhere. Versioning. Okay, I don't see anything actually noting. It'd be really nice if they had a link to GitHub on here. Here it is. Let's see. This is React Spectrum. So if, I don't know if, okay, so modern repo, I'm gonna have to look in packages. I'm looking for the dependencies. I want to see if it says anything about the version of React. So we have all the React Spectrum bits, your dependencies. It supposedly goes up to 19. Why not? Why not just YOLO all the things? That is never gonna go wrong, right? Has that ever gone wrong for anybody? All right. 34.0. I've been asked a few times. The meta context, whatever you want to call it, like this tag that says what version we're on. That is the dependee. They apparently have a paid thing now, but honestly, I don't use that, and it works fine enough. It used to be named like the project was named differently, and then I think, at least I'm assuming, when they went to study and release a paid version of it, that's when they built a company around it and renamed it. 7.2 should be fine. And Vite. Is this going to be a like upgrade all the things stream? I hope not. Vite. Let's look at their upgrade migration from V5. I'm gonna presume that our use of Vite in this project is not going to be affected by any of those breaking changes. So we're just gonna go ahead and upgrade all the things. We're gonna do npmi. We have no specific notes on the package manager. We're gonna upgrade we're gonna stay on node 20. Well, you know what? We're gonna go for it. I also use Volta, which is a package manager to manage the packages effectively. Is there an npm 11 now? I think there might be. Yeah. All right. We can actually specify within here. So if you're using Volta or you have it installed, when you do like an npm or a node command, it will use these versions, which is real nice. Node 23. I'm good. I do enough experimental stuff. I don't need that kind of experimental on my in my dependency tree as well. Honestly, for most things, I've kept it on node 20. The benefit of the new versions of Node isn't as great as they used to be. To warrant that bleeding by living on the bleeding edge. Have I tried DuckDB? I don't think so. I feel like I saw folks talking toking. My cat just fell off the couch. DuckDB. Column-oriented relational database management system. I feel like I saw somebody talking about this, and I do not remember what the context was anymore. RocksDB. Kitty, hey, can you stop scratching my couch? We got two cats. They apparently both have the zoomies right now, and they're chasing each other. Okay, I feel like I saw somebody like mention, or there was some talk about DuckDB. I don't remember what the context was anymore. I don't think I've tried it though. At least I haven't specifically used it directly. I doubt I've used it indirectly. But I feel like there was somebody was talking about it. RocksDB is Q based. I've been like, we're not going to really get into it in this project at all, but the like whole the Cloudflare durable objects and like the workers and all that, like that type of architecture has been kind of interesting to me as of late. Some of that has to do with the like, there feels like there's a lot of crossover with that and like the local first stuff, because you can pretty efficiently run off of like a worker or something like that, rather than having to like stand up, deal with Kubernetes, either by paying somebody to deal with it or you dealing with it, and hosting stuff. Like, serverless sounded like a good idea, but then not having any of that state ends up becoming involved. I feel like Cloudflare is hitting on a lot of those niceties, but I haven't actually like done anything more specifically with it than like read about it. I did a bunch of like worker stuff back in the day, but I don't know. I think I still have my URL shortener actually. That's still running on that, I believe. Apparently not. Apparently I have an error or something. Anyways, Volta. That's managing our versions. So if you happen to use it, great, it just does it for you. Otherwise, somebody could theoretically open this up and see we have specifically said we're using these versions, so it should work with that. So it's if you don't use Volta, at least it's a good indication of what versions to use. Darth Buddha, how's it going? Good to see you again. You're really enjoying Tauri so far. You wish the store defaults had better documentation. Yeah, honestly, like I feel like the API was changing a bunch, like kind of leading up right into V2, and the way V2 and the plugins were handled didn't go over super smooth in my mind. It's, sometimes that happens. I think that's all starting to get worked out though. Honestly, like I feel like everybody was pushing real hard to get everything out and launched, and like then it was released, and now we just like folks went on vacation and whatnot and took a bit of a break, and I'm hoping we can kind of get back into things, myself included. Put more time into the documentation and hopefully getting more folks involved with that kind of stuff, docs and PRs and whatnot. So if y'all watching are interested in getting more involved with the project, then yeah, let me know. Reach out and we can talk about stuff. It's a big enough project that I feel like folks sometimes come into it and kind of get lost, and they join but then end up not really going anywhere from there. So like that, I don't write nearly as much code these days as I have in the past. So like as part of the Tauri board, like those are the kind of things I think about. Like how can I help folks do the docs and do the code and you know make things better rather than me doing the things. Okay, so I think we'll, I mean, we might as well update that. And we'll do an npmi. And then we need to do a cargo upgrade here. So all of these, I'm going to switch these to 2. We're technically on 2. 2.2 in our package.json. And these are, at least specifically the plugins, we're keeping the intent is that the version number between the JavaScript package and the Rust package, or Rust crate, I guess, should match. Or, every time you release one of them, if you'll always end up releasing the other one. So the version number should, in theory, match. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these to be 2.2. If for whatever reason, other batches come in, then we get them, cool. But I'm gonna do that. We don't really need the, I think system info was just with us messing around. Saturday JSON, that should be fine. I mean, it says 1.35, but I think that is elsewhere. And then the positioner plugin, we can do 2, and build should be 2. And we'll just call this 2, I guess. Why not? All right. Okay, let's go over there and we'll do a cargo up. Is it update? Cargo upgrade. Oh. Tauri build. Is there not a, what version is Tauri build on? 2. Okay. We'll just do that. Just run it. Oh, I did cargo upgrade now. I guess we'll wait for that to finish. Then we'll do a cargo update. You don't know if you know enough to help. I mean, honestly, like, I got into Tauri not knowing any Rust, and I've basically learned Rust. I mean, to be fair, like, this was 5, 6 years ago. I don't even remember now. So Rust was less than it has been, but there's always going to be ways that you can, with any open source project, there's always going to be ways you can get involved. If it's something you're interested in doing and getting involved, and helping out with the project, there'll be a way they can help. Like even if you know nothing, and you're just getting into the project and you're just getting into like programming, there's other folks that are in that same spot. And if you're reading through the docs and you're getting stuck somewhere, if you know just enough than other folks sort of like at your level, being able to communicate and put that into the docs to help those people that are kind of like, let's say, a level below you, that is still going to help the project. Because like at some point, like, I mean, if you've been programming for 20 years, the things that you think about and are of concern and you're going to write about, you might just like completely paper over things that are going to be big blockers or big issues for folks that are just starting out. So if you're interested, I'm never gonna say avoid it because you don't know enough. I might say consider the reasons you're doing it. I feel like there's sort of been in the zeitgeist to contribute to open source as a way to get a job. I mean, in general, just like talking about and doing things and putting yourself out there is beneficial, but also like it's probably not going to directly get you a job. If it's enjoyable and you're doing it, and like I worked with Tori for a while, and I'm sure that helped in getting my job, but it wasn't like the reason I got it, if that makes sense. So, um, yeah, if you're interested, let me know. You should really, with a bookmark app you're trying to make at some point. Yeah, and honestly, like that is probably like this is how I prefer to learn. Literally just like dig into a thing. If I get stuck on something, then I research it. And that's how I like that's my learning process. That's how I best learn and retain that information. I've never found benefit in going through like a tutorial. I end up just like copying and pasting or reading through it and saying, yeah, that looks fine. But um, in many ways, the research shows that you need to like work with it, or you know, in class you will see something, they'll talk about it in class, and then you write it down in your notes. Like that kind of stuff is that helps in retaining information because you are like that conversion process of you hearing it and converting it into a different form. You end up needing to better understand it, or like teaching or explaining, and I guess writing docs too. The process of like going through and writing a doc page, you end up learning it a lot better because if you are effectively like forced to fill in those gaps that you didn't realize you had. So as you're writing it, you go, oh, actually, I don't know the answer to this, and then you have to go look it up. So being able to like explain it back helps a lot with just your personal growth as well. But anyways, working on a project, if I hit something that I don't know how to do or is causing an issue or whatever, then I just dig into it further. And like that's how I've found to have the best personal growth. And like at some point you start to get into rabbit holes where like you're the only person that knows how to do it. And that's where some of these plugins start to come to fruition. You get to a point where this thing doesn't exist. There's other folks that seem to need it. I need it. That's why I built the thing. That seems to be kind of the common process. So yeah, the going through the app and then finding any of those rough bits, updating the docs to make that process easier is always going to be beneficial for a project. And like yeah, starter template Nicola mentioned, we played around with the starter template, and this is actually forked from starter, not forked. Generated, I guess, is the language they use. Generated from this template that we made. I haven't been great about keeping that up to date, but also I feel like that should take on some other structure, and I haven't processed that to where I think it makes sense to take that. I guess in some ways actually, and this is maybe something we can touch on real quick here. TanStack has been quite popular in the front end ecosystem, and I think part of the reason is like I use TanStack form in a couple projects. We've got TanStack query in a couple I guess mostly work projects. And this, I think, is probably a big part of the reason. They have multiple frameworks. So like this query thing has like bindings effectively for multiple frameworks. And that is, I guess the versions aren't really. I think that's part of the reason that this has been adopted so well, because it meets the needs, it does it well, and you don't have to like be boxed in by a specific framework. So you have folks that love it and are using it in the Vue ecosystem, and then the same in React and Angular, etc., etc. Like I know there's a lot of interest in at least folks that are working on TanStack in Solid. But like if they were making this library just for Solid, their user base is going to be much smaller. So like that's been kind of just like plinking around in my head, because how they're writing it ends up being sort of these like generic pieces. Let's see, integrations. So like if we look at let's look at React Vite. So this is the TanStack React query, or TanStack query, whatever they call it now, implementation with React and Vite. Is this? Okay, this looks actually more like a example. Integrations, packages. Maybe we want to look at packages. Yeah, so there's like query core and then solid query. So, well, actually, I'm going to be able to more quickly parse React. So if we look at that React query, there's a good amount going on here. Most of what it's doing though is like building off of that core piece and putting it into a hook. Like that's kind of been the thing that's sort of like bouncing around in the back of my head. It feels like what we have with the Tauri API right now is the core. And what we've done with this template and what we've kind of spun out into this piece is it is a like generic function. I almost wonder if it makes sense to write some helpers just to make it a little bit easier to use it in the front end, because all of these APIs are async. The fact that all of these APIs are async, I think, at least with React, makes it a little bit more involved to deal with it. Yeah, it's been bouncing around there. Jonathan, thanks for stopping by. You're welcome. hopefully it's helpful. The in some ways I just enjoy playing around with and experimenting, and I like when it is beneficial to other folks. So you're using the Tauri store as a context provider with defaults and persistent storage right now. It was more efficient. The code it was actually doing in React. It was actually more efficient, the code, than doing it in React. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think I see what you're saying. Yeah, like using the API rather than trying to use a similar API in React. It yeah. Yeah, like I mean it's definitely going to be dependent on what you're doing, and the use cases I think are slightly different. Like if you're doing a store directly in the web view, that data persistence is going to be less reliable, whereas the store is actually saving it to the file system. So like the caching mechanism and when that's purged is different between those. So like that I think is probably going to be the bigger difference. But in either way, like there's not too much code to write, but it's just getting it wired up is sort of a pain. So having doing potentially something like considering our Tauri API and the plugins being like core pieces, I wonder if we can make that experience just a little bit better. Jonathan has asked, is anybody found an example of how to configure Terso with V2? I'm not aware of one offhand. That doesn't mean that I see everything though. I've looked at it, and I think we looked at it on stream, but we haven't actually set anything up. So I don't have anything to point you to, but it's been something that's kind of been like sitting in the back of my mind because it feels like it would be an interesting fit with Tauri. It seems like they've kind of gone like the reason we haven't specifically pulled it in is all of their examples and their code is like I don't think there is any Rust libraries, if I recall. Don't quote me on any of this. We have looked at it briefly in the past, but also like I guess there is a Rust SDK. Either I'm wrong or I don't remember that they added before. But like you're basically managing it in the Rust side of things. You could do the same with their JavaScript API. But like it feels like if you're going to deal with SQL this close to the client and having like an actual DB file, I feel like I would prefer to put that in Rust. So depending on what you're doing it, yeah, like you could do this, and this is probably gonna work, but also like, okay, it's not actually gonna work. This is all expecting to be run in non-browser context. Zoom in, yes. Is there? Can I make that a default? Settings maybe. Zoom. Every time I go to a different site, I need to remember to zoom in, and I don't always remember to do that. Page zoom, appearance. Can I do 150? That might be fine. I think that worked. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, like we can't use that. Then that means that we probably end up writing it in Rust, and I don't know. Then you have to like there's all the sync stuff too that you'd have to end up dealing with. So it wasn't the type of integration that was easy to just pick up and run through on stream. So we haven't yet. But we did some stuff with SQLite, and there's SQLite / SQL or like database type plugins and both like a Rust crate directly, but also Tauri plugins. It feels like it would be better working with one of those, but I don't actually have a use case for it, so that's not an easy demo project to spin up. Anyways, I think while this is done, let's do a cargo update. Updating index, latest 9 packages. Yeah, okay. We should be all on the latest then. I think we switch this around a little bit here. The bits that we were looking at were, so this actually like disables that autocomplete menu that pops up. Okay, we're gonna have to fix that. That's fine. I think we actually end up tossing this into React context. It feels like that's probably going to end up working the best for us. We've got a system trait context. Oh no, actually this is the whole context. So we do have a context for it. What are we doing here then? Export context. Do we not have it actually in a provider? Okay. I guess. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's probably fine. Let's go ahead and run it so y'all have some visuals here. We're gonna do npm run Tauri dev. I do have an alias, and R is npm run. It's gonna do the cargo thing, build and compile, and we should get our app. It's probably, we might end up hitting failures here because actually Rust probably isn't going to change too much. So we might get a good compiler here, but our front end might not render correctly. Because we're probably going to have to fix that. There is now a, is it /client? We'll see how well I remember this. React others, we're going to have to look it up. Create root. And create a root. So it takes a container and then options. We're gonna have to look at the docs for that. Has anyone built a higher level cargo tool called scargo? Is there really? I was saying, I hope so. That feels like something that should exist, even if there's no value in it existing. It's worth the. Okay, yeah, we're getting that syntax error for sure. React and dev. It's not worth existing, even if just for the joke. So we need to do a. Is it going to be in DOM hooks components? Select. No. Client. Create root. Okay, so we need to do a create root. Got it. So here we do a dot render. I'm going to leave strict mode off for the moment. This is null or unassigned. Guess. It's still going to be unassigned though. So we'll say if no DOM node. I guess we'll just say if DOM node. It'll make TypeScript happy at least. I don't know if that's going to give us issues here, but the big thing is we need to fix the store. It's kind of annoying. I can't drag it though. It's just floating here. System tray context, React spectrum provider, and then all of that I think is going to be in our index. So here we got a store, and then we're returning the store. And then from that store, we have a set that we then, I believe, wire up to our items. So maybe, do we just fix this real quick? The intent is that I don't think we will end up wanting to use it, but like that file structure is probably fine. We also don't have a create store. Yeah. So there is a get store and gets an already loaded store. If it's not loaded, returns null. So you have to load it. Load. So here we're creating a store. Loads, create a new store or load the existing store. Okay, so this ends up being a load. So we get a load store. I don't know that the autosave matters. And get store doesn't really matter that much. Okay, so now if this is working as we hope it is, hello. And now when we refresh, that comes back. And like this API seems to be a lot better. Like the refresh used to be super slow. So like the backend stuff it has changed, I believe. It seems to load a lot faster. But even still, I think we want to switch to the file system API because I want to actually have control of that file. Linter does not like the get store. Yeah, this was from RC probably. You use the key change to build your store context provider. Yeah, I think we're just gonna end up ripping it all out right now because I want to be able to use the file system API. In the context of like this project, we set up the notifications, the shortcuts, and the tray. And that all kind of came with this template that we generated this project from. I think we still all want to use that. In that process, we did add the store. So like this was the existing bits. This was the bits that, well, we've got some stuff like commented out, but this was the bits that we've added. I think we just swapped that out because what I want to do is I think we switched to just using a file. And every one of these tabs ends up being like a file. We might have to change things around a little bit to handle that. But like functionally, it isn't going to change the thought too much. So in this case, I'm personally going to be using it on Windows. But if we're wiring this up with and working with OBS, in theory, it could work with anything that OBS works with. So like, sure, that's fine. And it does seem to work with all those. So here we are. That's just checking if it exists. Are we going to need to do like a create and open a file and returns a handle to it? So like we did this at the root because we wanted access to the store and then everything just went inside that store. With this tweak to where we will, and actually I'm going to, while we're talking about it, I'm going to make the add and remove tabs much smaller so I can actually see what's going on here. Components, tabs. Like those names are very large. So I'm just gonna go like this for right now. Whoop. I think every one of these tabs is gonna end up being a file. Now, we can, so when the app loads, we need to like load that file. And every time we make a new tab, we're going to basically be creating a file. So we're probably going to end up using a bunch of these APIs. And we'll probably end up digging into, if we do a create, like we're going to want to potentially prompt the user where to create it. So it might take a little bit of effort. And this is probably going to be what we end up getting through today. The file system stuff. At least that's the goal. What are we at? An hour? Yeah. Let's see if we can make that happen. So the menu items is going to be the problem is we potentially want to like save that state still. So when we are looking at creating a file, we'll create the file, it'll be a new tab. That tab is going to be effectively like attached to a file. So each one of these is going to be a file. When we close and reopen it, how do we reattach to it? So I think there's some expectation that we like save state, and that probably is going to make sense to be I don't think we put that in the store plugin. I think we just put that in generic state. So like put it in the Rust state, and that will persist between. Does that make sense? I think that's probably going to make sense, is just keep it in there, and then effectively you'd be able to like load. So when we do the file picker, you're either going to be creating or opening an existing one. So like this plus isn't going to create a new tab until you like point to or match it up with an existing one. So we probably have like a new or different window that goes through that work to handle that. What would be the first implementation of that? I think we can. So for my situation, I have a folder called next. And that's like, I have a template, I copy it, all of my recordings and everything from the stream go into this folder, and that folder ends up being standard because OBS doesn't like let you do that dynamically. So then after stream is finished, I copy it into a different folder and create a new next folder based off of my template. So like in theory, I could theoretically just hard code it as a file path for the moment, and that'll probably get us pretty far. And then we'll have to add those other additional interactions afterwards. So file structure wise, I think we end up getting rid of this menu items because it's not actually going to directly dictate anything. So this menu items comes in, we are then, oh, that's the other menu items. That would be, so this is running, that's this right here. So hiding and showing that menu item. And if we add new menu items to it, when we single click it, I think, I don't remember what interaction we have, but that's the tray menu, not the tabs. So here, this is just going to be returning and setting the store. I think we pull it out because we don't actually need the file in context anymore. So we're going to pull out store. Here, here, and here, we have a return tray. It is saying there's an error because we are pulling in this. I'm going to remove it from the package.json because I don't need it anymore and I don't want to forget about that. And I'll worry about regenerating it later. The lock file, that is. So then I think we just roll with this, and potentially within our tabs is where we start working with that. Right, so you need a text file then. Yeah, I think we'll have to think about the structure of the file a little bit, but the intent is that these to-do items will be written to a text file, and it will effectively like double as a way to create timestamps. So as you create to-do items, we'll have to play around with the order of the to-do items a little bit. But every time you like check one to complete, we're going to record a timestamp based off of the like input from the streaming software. So OBS will give us a timestamp and we'll save that in the file. So that by the time we're done with the stream and we've checked off a bunch of things, like every time we complete a task, that will end up basically being like a timestamp and a chapter within the stream. But we just really need a text file because the content ends up being dumped into the description within YouTube. So the YouTube description takes that content, and potentially we can get fancy and hit the API and write it out directly and have it immediately update. But we'll start with the text file. And I think it's always going to be nice to have that text file, even if we set up the API call. And that text file will then end up basically just being something that is in a format that we can parse, but also ends up being useful otherwise. So like a tab delimited or something like that, like a TSV. So if we don't have a store anymore, we are pulling it in here and then we are doing some work to get it set. So we're gonna have to update that. We don't need the system store here anymore. That context goes away and tabs from store. So this, I think we probably can just say go be something like this. And it is a tab list. So there's items. And that'll at least like prevent us from having all a ton of errors. Maybe. What are we getting now? Ooh, that was okay. Now, so we still don't have store here. If we add a tab, then we are just appending. The other bit that we were running into too with React Spectrum, there wasn't a way to do like side effect type stuff. So I might end up switching out of their state management library because it isn't really helping us here. And where is that imported from? So tabs.append. Use asynchronous comes from React's daily. Yeah, like it's fine. It's not my favorite library by any means. I don't regret picking it up for this project, but also it might make sense to just swap it out for something that'll be a little bit more powerful. What's nice is that wires up and is expected to work with React Spectrum. And React Spectrum is sort of like expecting it in this structure. But we didn't have a way to, so on load or like on items being inserted, we also wanted to do some work. So like here we were updating our tabs. And in that process, we were also having to do like this. So we were setting it in the store because we were sort of like partially dependent on the store, partially dependent on the state, and it was just sort of awkward. But we didn't have a way for React State Lead to just handle that for us and update the state, because we effectively had then two states. We had the store, the state from the store plugin, and then we have the state that's like loaded into memory. And syncing those up is just annoying. I don't see anything having changed there. Because like what we would want to do would be sort of like an async operation. We update our in-memory state, then we want to write out to the file. I think we're going to be doing a bunch of that kind of like backgroundy task stuff, in which case I think we'll look at swapping out to something else. But honestly, for now, keeping it in memory is probably going to be just fine. So I'm going to pull out those bits. We will start then with an empty list, and as we progress, we'll fill that in a little bit more. So if we click on this, and I guess let's do a refresh. Okay, so it seems to be not having any errors, which means I would expect to see, well, we don't have any tabs. We were by default creating a tab, so that's probably part of it. Do we have any logic that, so home, do you have any logic that says, yeah, like don't render, tabs, use async list, we're loading it, and we don't have any items. So if we have no tabs from store, then we throw an error. We can actually get rid of that because we don't have to worry about that dependency anymore. Okay, so if it's loading to that, otherwise render this. So we should have something rendered here. We won't have any items, and we have an add tab and a remove tab. So this is in this. So we are rendering tabs, and then we have an action group. I wonder if there's like a expect tab list. We might have to deal with that. That might be causing us some grief. But we don't have any actual issues here, or we don't have any errors here. So I'm gonna ignore that for the moment, and then we're going to put in our, here we're just gonna have a default, default and default. Sure. So now if we refresh, okay, so we got a tab. Can we, I probably want to move in the, or bring in the, let's actually turn on decoration so we can move it, and we will, we'll just make it a little bit easier to work with. in our setup tray, we have some logic to hide and then deal with like existing tray icons. So this is more of a, we kind of mentioned it here, it's mostly for dev and hot reloading. I don't know if there's a better way to do it, but like that was fine for the time being. And it meant that we didn't have like every time it did a hot reload, it wasn't like recreating that actual tray icon. Because they're like getting the handle and doing the handle for it just doesn't seem to work. At least in Windows, it didn't seem to work very well. So that helped with that. But now, do we have a position? What do we have in here? Move window constructor. We have a move window. Let's go look at that API real quick. Actually, no, we're getting distracted. We are not going to hide it. And we want to turn on decorations, I guess, so we can see. So we can see the window always. So we'll turn on decorations. That will give us some, well, we'll have to do a re-render because we changed configuration, but that lets us move it around. So now we can work with a little bit more directly. I'm guessing this is probably too small. Is that fair to say? In which case, I think we probably need to deal with that. If the expectation is that folks can actually read that, we're gonna have to deal with that. Font size. What is this font size? App header, app logo. So it's doing a calc to vmin. I mean, that's a header, right? I don't even know if any of these are used anymore. So we're pulling in, are we importing these? So app CSS is imported there, yeah. We have an app header, which I don't even think we're using anymore. So let's go in and just do a, we'll do a body. We'll see how well my CSS is. Font size, I guess. Let's go ahead and inspect that. Styles computed. Display, font family, width, margin. We're looking at this bit, right? Font size. I have no idea like what okay, they've got a whole bunch of defaults and stuff in here. We might actually just need to look at React Spectrum. I don't know that they, because there's some like expectation that you're using their effectively like their design system. So styling, sizing. That's not text size. Theming, testing. Okay, so there's a color scheme, buttons. there's a default theme. And a lot of information around colors and stuff, which is neat. But also something I'm not specifically interested in at the moment. All right. Okay, so we can set font sizes here. So body. So it looks like we say a font size. Is there like a header component or something? Buttons, collections, color, header. Okay. So we might end up just deleting a bunch of that, but for the moment, let us look at the tabs. We have a spectrum tabs. And an item. Item is coming from, all right. Yeah, item.key. All right, so that's within. How do you set the class? There's no class name on these. So is it not expecting you to set the class name? Height grid. Text. Size. Okay. We might have to dig into that a little bit more. Can I just zoom in then? A label maybe? Maybe. Aria labeled by? Oh. No. I mean, it seems like it just does it all for you, which I guess is nice in some ways, but also like I need to zoom in. Text view. So view. Unsafe class name. Use style props instead. So I mean, I guess I could do like a yeah. I'm not like super. I've used a bunch of React Aria, and I feel pretty well versed in that now. Less so React Spectrum, which it feels in some way as the like it's clearly built on top of React Aria. I pulled it in because it was a way to like spin it up quick. Yeah, and like this. That's kind of why I liked React Aria, honestly, because it gives you enough the like bits to handle some of those like more involved interactions, but kind of got out of your way for the styling, and you could do whatever you want with the styles. it doesn't have nearly the amount of components, but also like now I have to learn this whole thing if I want to continue to use it. I mean, can we just do like so that's an item, right? What if we just do like header? How is it gonna like that? And import. Yeah, and so there's like some expectation of like how you nest these things too. It'll be like hard errors if we don't. Unknown element, yeah. Unknown element in collection. So you have to kind of use their system. I don't know. We'll kind of roll with it for the moment, but I can't zoom or anything on this, which feels odd. Can I zoom in here? I don't think I've got anything that's like preventing that either. App header, button, body. Like, I think we can just delete this. I'm not actually using any of it here. Yeah, and they're all like initial commit. So like, shrug. Just to make things a little bit clearer on what's happening. I actually had it imported twice too. Nice. Here I've got some stuff. I don't know that any of that's actually being used either though. Okay, a little bit was. Okay, so the body margin was definitely there. This. Can I just do zoom? Zoom 150%. What does that say? Zoom is not supported. Okay, well, it's fine because it works here. Good for now, I guess. Pokey, nice. Pokey poke. I like your name. Thanks for stopping by. You tried Tauri 2 to create an app with calendar access. You wrote a plugin with basic permissions and calendar event aggregation for iOS and Android. It was a pain to build and connect everything. You're now trying Capacitor.js instead, but you might release a Tauri 2 plugin. That I think that'd be kind of cool. The mobile support is definitely it's in its infancy, so I'm unfortunate that you ran into pain, but also I can't say I'm surprised. That seems like a little bit more involved bit. So I'm down to try that. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's try it. Let's try it, Darth. I think they've got a bunch of this like set, which is why I just went with the zoom. Maybe we do just a little bit off, back off just a little bit, but like that is readable, right? I think I end up making this window bigger too. That will help with the space that we have. Because we're gonna probably want it to be rather high. And the width is probably gonna be maybe something like that feels good. Well, we'll let that rebuild. Oh, nice. Crashed the thing. So like, I'm honestly okay if we got this much space. If we just do zoom 150, like that'll probably be fine for right now. And then we'll have to figure out the React area or the React spectrum way to do it, which will be fine. A lot can be ported from capacitor.js to Tauri. If you ever need to start a plugin from scratch, you were able to port their plugin over with minimal changes. Nice. Yeah, some of the other Tauri plugins, like the positioner plugin, was sort of a I think that it's qualified as a port from Electron. So having reference material is nice. I mean, honestly, like I've always said, we should never put down or degrade other packages, especially Electron, despite the hate that it gets. Without Electron, I'm sure Tauri wouldn't exist. So, like, yes, in some ways, folks can consider it an improvement over Electron, but that doesn't mean we need to be hating on Electron. And if anything, we should be thankful of all the work that they put in. Use what's going to allow you to ship. That's where I'm at. All right, so we have our to do, and if we click, we get these new things. So this is all in memory right now. We're not actually saving anything. Let's see if we can hook up the file permission bits real quick here and go from there. Now, file system. If you have looked at the docs more recently for V2, it has this command. It is doing an add through Tauri, and what that does, and the reason to do that is calling both the cargo add and updating the plugin list. So if you are trying your best not to touch Rust, use the automatic commands if they are available. Because there is basically a little bit extra setup when you copy this. There we go. There's a little bit extra setup. And if the command supports that, sweet. All right, so, but you like to touch the Rust. Yeah, I mean, if you want, go for it. Do the manual process. But like, also if you are doing Rust, the automatic, it doesn't do a whole ton, but it's nice to just have it done for you. You can see a bunch of the things that it does. So like it's adding it to the dependencies, including the features, and it is then installing the plugin for npm and right there, updating your permissions, and then updating it to the main.rs. So like all those little bits, kind of nice to have somebody do it for you. Let's go ahead and rerun, and let's pull in. Let's pull in the file stuff. So we need to create. We're for sure going to need to create a file. Create a file and return a handle to it. If it exists, it's truncated. We don't want it to truncate. So we're potentially going to need to do like an open or a load first. And I guess we probably need to do an exists. The file metadata can be retrieved. I guess that's probably going to be the thing that we want to do. Check to see if it exists. Okay, so we have one that errors. If it doesn't not exist, then it fails. Wait. Oh, wait. That's an open. Open. Okay, so we've got a couple modes for the open. Right. Append, truncate, create. to create the file if it does not exist, opening it if it does. There. So we'd set a few options here. I think, okay, so this is actually going to be what we want to do. We want to do an open. So in order for the file to be created, write must also be set to true. And this works similar to create, but if the file does not exist, it fails. So we want to do a create. In our case, it is going to then open the file if it doesn't exist, but create it beforehand. So if it does not exist, opening it, that's kind of difficult to read. To create the file if it does not exist, opening it if it does, set create to true. Come on, kitty. Kitty doesn't need to be on desk. I think this is what we want. And it opens the file and then writes to it. I don't think we actually need to do this every time we make a change, but also it's probably going to be convenient to do it right now. And this again too is where like I don't really want to do it here, but also like it hasn't given me much option with the React Spectrum API. So we're probably just going to roll with it. Tauri permission system reminds you of Minecraft servers. Yeah, honestly, the in most of the ways I like the new system. It's more robust from a like security standpoint. And I think a lot of that like structure is taken from a mobile world. So as they were working on mobile, they realized that the previous permission system was inadequate to match with or work with what the mobile system or what the mobile ecosystem is expecting. So then that effectively like forced those changes. Yeah, like it makes sense that it reminds you of Minecraft servers because it's like any server. You need a permission structure and it seems to get complex fast. And there's sort of like kind of predefined models now that systems end up picking up. So you squint and I'm sure a lot of systems are going to look very similar. Because it's known to be a good or good enough implementation. Okay, so we have an open. This is the bit that we're going to need to look at. We are doing it on the base directory, and we're giving it a path. So let's look at the paths because that's going to be something that we need to look at. Every API is an options argument that lets you define a base directory. So this base directory, I think, is probably going to be that's probably going to be the bit that we want to think about a little bit. In the permission section, there's a scopes, and I don't know how obvious this is, but this lists all of basically the options that are part of that like directory. So we are doing a base directory, and then we have a bunch of options. What I'm not quite sure of is so like this gives you a little bit more flexibility in where. you can use the exists API using any of the app data subfolders because it's doing this. So they're basically like scoping the permissions. We probably want to allow the user to pick some place to put it. In theory, it could be anywhere. But I don't really want to like open it up to that. I think in our case, we end up doing, so like here, we've got a video directory that would go into my video directory within Windows. I don't put it there though. So like if I open up, yeah, it's fine. Okay. I was trying to open it up on the other monitor, but okay. So I do actually have it in the documents folder in my specific case. I don't know that we can actually assume that that's going to be the case for everybody. But as I said, we are actually going to just straight up hard code it for the moment. Document. We're going to straight up hard code it for the moment, so it will be fine. And we should double check our permissions real quick, because I don't know how it added it. FS default. We might end up running into an issue there, so we'll have to double check that. Now, what we're doing is every time we add a tab, we're gonna create the new tab, and then we're gonna like literally just open up the file. But it doesn't really make sense to like do that. We could, in theory, like hang around that file handle. So in our tabs, we're getting in items. And we're getting a tabs.items. So here we're adding a tab with an items. So we have an ID and a title. And that's appears to be mostly our definition. So we could just do a file. I'm not like super keen on it, but we'll roll with it and just see what happens. So let's do this then. So if you do a new tab, it's going to basically generate the file for you. I am going to, I guess, keep this open so we can continue to reference it. So like I said, I've got a folder called next. And that's in my documents, streams, recordings, next. So I'm just going to hard code that for the moment. Streams, recordings, next. And we're going to call it to do. I guess that makes sense. Or better yet, generate an extra tab when a user changes the default one. Yeah, that's true too, because yeah, I mean, honestly, like I don't think we should have a default tab. But the problem is I had that action tied to it. So I can't create a new tab if there's no tabs. So like this isn't gonna work either, but we can roll with it for the moment. So then this ends up being file, and then we append, and then we end up writing again. So here, at least we'll get some like content in there every time we add a tab. It's going to overwrite the same one every time, but like, actually let's do I even have the ability to rename? No, I don't. We are just generating the title based off of the like date now string. So let's actually just do a name. That should be fine. And then at least we get a different one for every. And name. Okay. So we won't have one for default, but like whatever. Love the puzzle apex of programming. Yeah. Yeah. We're changing so much that it's like, how can we just like incrementally make this change without, you know, taking on everything and this stream being 5 hours. Not that I'm going to be able to go for 5 hours though, but what time is it? Oh, I suppose I got it's not quite right, but one of the, we actually did this on stream maybe more than a year ago. We pulled in some, I think we did it with Fastify in Python. And I set up a little e-ink display, and I can't really, my cord is only so long, but there we go. I resurrected it finally. I didn't have a way to, oh man, I need to organize my cords. I got a 3D printer, so that was part of the thing, like fun but also chaos of I got a 3D printer, and then I was like, oh, that's a great way to make Christmas presents, little trinkets and stuff. That kept me busy at the end of the year. But I printed the housing for it. So it's a e-ink display with a Raspberry Pi Zero on the back of it. And we had initially set it up on stream. And I didn't really take it any further because at some point I unplugged it because I was moving stuff around and I didn't have a way to like house it and have it standing. And then it just never came back. And then apparently it still seems to be like a thing that's getting some interest because somebody made a YouTube video with a new project entirely written in Python that gives you like a web interface to interact with it, which was basically what we were doing on stream, but like more than a year ago. It's fine. There's only so many projects I can take on. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to switch to it. So I switched to their project and printed a housing for it. So at least I can use the thing. It's not just taking up space in my desk with no use. Okay, so we've got, yeah, effectively this is then an incremental ID, and we don't have to care about that increment. You know, like we if we reload it or we get a hot module reload, we don't have to like worry about it continuing to overwrite the same thing or like the same file or anything. I guess we can say file. Well, here, let's make that optional, I guess. So here we're going to load the tabs. This is the default. And then here we're going to create it, and we will start dumping code into there. So every time we click add, we should get a new file here. I'm guessing that we're going to have permission errors though. I think that's resolved. We'll find out. Okay. Yes. fs.open not allowed. So we go here. We say fs. I'm actually going to go to the example. We want to do, I guess we just dive in right to it. I'm not going to do fs defaults. I'm going to specifically set it. We're going to say fs open is going to be allowed on path. We're just going to do it in the directory for right now, the document directory. So we're just going to say it's allowed here. And we'll deal with it later. Future us. Always a problem for future us, right? Oh, okay. Wow. Oh my. All right. Permission fs open not found. Okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Is that core now? I just deleted the let's copy. We'll go back because I can do okay. So fs default works. It's not a core because it's a plugin, right? So fs default. I'm guessing it's an allow open. So we need to update that. Speaking of, Darth, if you're interested in opening up a PR, where was that? Oh, we hit the error when we did from the defaults. The defaults, or no, the error with the permission said that we needed an fs open. I think that is incorrect. I think we need to update it to say allow open. Okay, so we have the permission now. Let's open up this, go to our console, and we do an add here. Okay. Yeah, so like, oh wait, fs dot write not allowed. Okay, so maybe it was correct. So it's basically saying here we need to do like an fs allow write. Okay. And this comes back to we jumped right into just specifying it very specifically. But now we have to do it for every one. And I don't think there's a way to make it more compact. It might make sense to have a separate file system permissions file. But we'll see how it expands. Okay. All right. Neat. We got. Should open it up in this one. Yep. Cool. We got it. Now, there's going to be some. So every time we make a new tab, we're going to get a new file. Here we go. So we got 2 files already. So every time we make a new tab, we're going to get a new file in there, which is fine. In this case, we don't care that much. So the problem is going to be like the discovery of it. If we have a to-do list, we kind of want to like store the tabs that we had opened previously, right? And we can remove the tabs, but we don't want to actually delete the file. So technically that's working already because our removal is going to just remove it from the in-memory state. So that'll be fine. And like hot reloading will also be fine. I'm going to go, I don't really need that. So we're doing an append and then a write. And right now we're just doing a generic string. We're not really passing in an add or a tab value, are we? So in our tabs, when we click add, we are doing a on-action value. So that must be like a plus or something. Remove tab, selected tab. I'm actually a little curious what the value that is. But like it doesn't matter that much. I think I do want to do a per day one. So if we say, there's a way to get, let's see, format. JS date format. We want to get the ISO to set get month, get UTC to ISO string. That's probably going to be what I want, to ISO string. But I don't want the time in there. We can strip out the time. Here, this is probably the easiest way to look at it. To UTC string, to ISO string. Do we just split? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. To ISO. Date. New date. Oh. I think if we do new date, it gives us a new actual like date, right? So then if we do a split on T and then do that, let's just go for it. Ah, nice. All right. So now we should get a named file and it'll just keep overwriting that. So it's gonna either, like if we do a new tab, it's gonna, it's the same tab. That gets weird, but that's fine. So what we'll do is we'll say, we'll say if that tab exists already, yeah, I'll basically just end up creating it in that folder every time. And we'll want to make that a little bit more dynamic, but that should work for now. We'll create a new file in that same folder every time we add plus. And if it exists already, then we don't need to bother creating it. We're just adding a tab. So we can say we want, whoop. Okay, a little bit better. We're gonna say we always want to do the open because we want to basically make sure that it exists. And this will be the new tab. And we'll say if tabs dot can we is there like an exist? So there's an update and there's an insert. Get item. So I guess we can do get item. And the key we're looking for is name, I guess. So if that returns, then we know it exists. Ooh. And if it doesn't exist, then we got to write it out. So in this case, we want to do a tabs.update. And update takes 2 arguments, which is the key and the new value. So we do name and new tab. There we go. So now it should basically no op, but still update and add a file handle if we don't have one yet. So it's not going to create a new one. We can click over to it and then we can go bye-bye. Okay. So we can do then we can get rid of the default and then and handle that later. That'll be fine for now. That'll at least give us a new tab with a new file, and we got a file, and it's gonna basically like persist. So anytime we're running this, I can basically just open it up. If our date doesn't exist, I can do that and it'll open to it. So that will functionally work fine for the moment. It'll be fine. This is what I want. All right. So our tabs are good, I believe. Now we just need to update the to-do list. So every time we make a change on the to-do list, we have a handle submit and we have a handle delete. Like it would be nice to just have like a listener effectively. And that's the sort of annoying bit of this. With their state, we don't really have a great way to like just listen for events and act on them. Okay, so if there's no tabs from store, then it's doing some stuff. We're not gonna worry about loading them right now. So we'll just start with this. This will load always an empty list. And then on submit, we will write out. We don't need the store or append. We don't store items. We don't really have a callback dependency either, but yeah, it's fine. I think that should be fine. We might as well just leave it in there if we have it wired up. And then selection change. And this. Updated store items, yeah. So, I mean, that becomes easier to manage. And here, this is like going back and forth between, we might actually still need something like this, so I'm just going to comment it out for the moment. And then we don't need to worry so much about these bits. Oh, here we go. Base to bytes. I guess we should do that. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to need it. We'll leave it in there and see what it does. All right. Mati, how's it going? Good to see you. I don't know if does it actually show in? I don't know if it's streamer.bot or what, but it says you're a new viewer. Did you make a new account? I feel like you've stopped by before. But like it says first words, which tells me that that's the first time you've been here, but I also feel like I recognize your name. So either something's wrong or something's wrong. Either my memory or the computer's. Or I guess, new account or something maybe. Okay, we have default. We're going to create a new thing. We're going to add an item, add. Now we have stuff. Yeah, you've been here before. I thought so. I thought so. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's a YouTube thing. Maybe it's my streamer.bot integration cache is gone or something. I don't know. Either way, as always, good to see you. We have an item. We can do a refresh. It goes away. And that makes sense because we're not like pulling that state. So if we go into here and we go into this, we're just getting the world. So like we're not actually modifying it. We're not doing anything with the file yet. So that makes sense. Now every time we do a submit, what we're doing here is we're doing an append with this item. We have a content and then an ID based off of the content. That makes sense. Yes, we do want to keep this because what this is doing is it's making the ID dynamic based off of the actual content. And then if there's no concept of editing. So like you make a new one or you delete it and then it's directly tied to the content. But we needed the ID for React Spectrum. So then the actual text goes there. So I think what we could effectively do then is we have a list ID. Do we have the tabs? Tabs from store. We don't actually pipe in that root tabs, do we? So we have a tabs items. So here's the items. So here we are mapping through items. Okay, we don't actually pipe in tab list. Okay, so we're not actually piping in anywhere the that content within the tab. Action group item. So tab panels here. We're doing items and then item key, and we're rendering the item content, which is coming from tab panels. So where's to-do list being pulled in? Oh, we don't have a store anymore. That's fine. Get rid of you. Yeah, go away. All right. Main and so home has items, add tab, remove tab. And we are giving it tab items. So we have an ID, a title, and content. So those tabs, which has our file handle, is not actually being fed that file handle at all. So our tabs within our tabs here do not have that file menu. So when we get the items, we don't have a file handle. And so we're still mapping over the items here. And then we have an item. So where does to-do list actually come in? To do. To do. For content. Got it. So
That's actually not awful. We can then say a file, and we'll do tab.file. So now we can say here we have a file with a file handle from the Tauri API. And all the structured elements are unused. That's fine. So now every time we submit, we are grabbing the content and we're appending a new one. So we should then also be able to say await file dot write data, and we got to give it a uint8 array. So we have base 64 to bytes. All right. So we basically need to make a buffer. So we can say a buffer dot from. Right? Does that still work? It's thinking node, but it isn't. Data. Okay, we can do the text encoder. Yep. That's the ticket there. Okay, so encoder, text encoder. We don't actually need it as part of we can just do that. We don't have to initialize one every time. So encoder encode. We're going to say JSON.stringify. We're just going to stringify what we have right now to do. And we're going to say no replacer and give it a space of 2. And that will be our data. And then we do a file.write. So this file is going to be a file handle to the from the tab, which is every time we hit new tab, we keep that file handle around. So this will write it out the full JSON stringify every time we add a new item. We also want to do the same for delete. So I'm going to just copy this down here. And I don't think we care about the selection change, so we're going to leave that alone for right now. So now I'm going to go ahead and open up the hello world that we have. Let's close some of these things. Set up tray. All right. Yeah, we can leave it open. Now we do a refresh. We create a new tab. This now has a file handle to this file that we're looking at in the middle here. We type in this is a new item. When we hit enter, this should update. Nope, there we go. Clearly it's appending, so we'll need to do like write over it. But this is just doing a JSON.stringify of the state that is held by the React Spectrum component. So we don't have any. Well, this is definitely interesting here that we have items, and that's empty. It might be like a state change thing, and this is kind of coming back to we're probably going to want to like change out of this because the process to do this with React stately doesn't seem like it's going to be very convenient. So we're doing a stringify every time we operate on it. I have a feeling that we're going to basically be doing that on this tail content. which is unfortunate. But here we do want to do, I'm guessing there's a options. We want to write true. Oh, wait. Write true base directory. Await write. So is there not a, okay, so it's just the data. Do we need a, I imagine it won't matter if we keep the file open. We might need to care about teardown, but I'm uncertain how much we'll like need to care about that. But when we do open it up, we potentially need to, where is that code? Here, right true. So we want write access. We don't want an append. If the file already exists, any write calls on it will overwrite its contents by default without truncating it. If the file already exists, any write calls on it will overwrite its contents. Yeah, like I don't want an append. So there's read, truncate. What is mode? Permissions to user creating the file. We might, I mean, it said there it's ignored on Windows. We might need to care about that. How do we do the, when we call it write? After we have the file handle. Open. So default is read only. If we do write, there's write only, and append, truncate. You can use it along the append option if you want to rewrite an existing file using multiple. Okay. So I guess we want to do this. You can use it along with the append option if you want to rewrite an existing file using multiple file.write. So if we have a handle, I guess we want to truncate and we want to append true. It feels a little awkward. So we want to write, we want to create, and we want to append. Like all the things. We want to do all the things. So now we'll do a refresh. I'm going to open this back up. So we got our content there. We did a refresh ready. I'm going to hit new. Be able to open a file at file path. Apparently it doesn't like all of those. Failed to open file at file path. Is it because I have it open already? Refresh, add. Nope. The parameter is incorrect. I have a feeling that all of these options together is a, okay. I'm going to take off the, we want to append, but truncate, I believe. So I'm going to take off the write. We'll do create, append, truncate. We'll see what happens. Let's do a refresh and we'll do an add. Okay, still failed. It already exists. So if this works, we might need to append and truncate of true. It doesn't seem like that. append true has the same effects as this. Okay. This option requires right to be true. Okay, so we do need right true. I'm going to try that. So now we hit new, we go, and it worked. I'm going to open this up, and where's open? Open with Visual Studio. Okay, so we've got that. Now if we do add an item, and we go over here, that updated, and again, it's still appending though. But also it's weird that we have no content there. That's odd. Do we have anything else to get the content out? It might be something with the way that Stringify works on it. Tabs, to-do list. To-do dot. So there's an items. I guess we do an items. And this is going to give us a to-do item. And that's just an array, right? It looks like it. So if we say to-do.items, let's try that. We might need to still consider the newly added state when we're doing this JSON.stringify. But we'll one step at a time, and then we're almost there. This will at least get us to like a state that is potentially usable, and then we can start working through the other bits. So now when I add, it overwrites it. We still get the world, so something. So when it opens, it seems to be doing the thing that we're expecting it to. That's interesting though. Oh, I did it in the default. Something. Empty array. And again, empty array. Interesting. I have a feeling this is something with this React stately. Well, there's two bits that are going on here. We want it to append, right? But truncate. So like this apparently does not work. Appended true, truncate true. The docs imply it does. Maybe it works on other operating systems, but not on Windows, which would be a little unfortunate, but I have a suspicion that might be the case. So I'll do a refresh and add, failed to open file. So if we open, if we want to keep a handle around, what does that look like? I mean, we could in theory just write it out, open up, write it out, and close it every time. Kind of unfortunate though. We could also we could, so we open it here and then we were passing the file handle and that seemed to mostly be working. But it's Okay, so the write create truncate, that truncate only seems to happen when it's opened. So we've got a write for writing text and binary files for performance. So this, if we call file.close, I don't know if we like lose the handle to it or not. So after we write, if we do an await file.close, what happens? Let's try that first. So if we do this, we get a handle. Heh. What happens? Okay, so the resource ID, so it still has like a resource ID. If we now look at, does this return anything? Const test equals, that's not what I tried to write, but void. So file.close is void. If we do that, I don't think it's actually a file handle anymore. We can potentially look at the, this is a plugin. So if we look at the references and FS plugin, file handle. Yeah, definitely promise void. Destroys and cleans up this resource from memory. You should not call any method on this object anymore and should drop references to it. So we can do the create like open and get all the content. That probably is going to work for the first pass, but like after we do that, we might just want to we might just want to like reopen it and act on it every time. What's the that write file? What does write file do? So given contents, we just write based off of a file name. So maybe we do a path rather than passing the handle around. Okay, so we're doing a file open. We got a couple bits here. We have the file path and then the directory. So if we say, let's say const file ops equals name and options. This will be the name. And here's our options. And now we can say a file.name file ops.options. Oh, options. Now that will do its work and it will open it up and write out. We potentially do want to grab the content, but we'll deal with that later. So then in this case, what we're doing is we are writing out, we're doing an append, and here we don't want to actually save the file. We want to save the file ops. And now this will give us a type file ops equals this and this. There we go. Okay. So we have some bits now. And then here we're going to do then file ops and tab file ops. And in our to-do list, we want to then start taking the file ops. I think I'm actually going to then split out though these bits into the types. We're gonna say, I guess we'll just say types.ts, and we'll dump those here. Import this. We'll do an export and probably just export them all. Okay. We're almost there. Now our items are going to be tab list item. Oh no, that's a different tab list. Okay, we're not gonna worry about that one. This one was the one that we care about though. File ops from types. Yep. Okay. We can get rid of the handle. All right. Now, when we get to this bit here, we don't actually have access immediately to the file. We have the ops. So we can say now and await file write text file. Await write text file. We're going to import it, and that is going to be a file ops.name file ops.options. And honestly, I probably should switch that to path, but okay. And we have oh wait, we want to write out, we got path and we got data. Okay, so I don't actually need the options. But we do need the base dir. Okay, so we need to do a data and that only needs to be a string, which is nice. So we can actually we can get rid of our text encoder. It does a little bit of extra work for us. And now we have a write with name, data, file ops. I don't think we actually need all of those bits. I think the only thing that's going to care about actually is the base directory, but that's fine. So now I think we should be able to just copy those bits here. And let's see how we are rolling. Now we do a refresh here. We lose that context. Let's do a new. Click over. Test item. Add. Write text file is not allowed. That makes sense. We want to add an allow write text file instead of the other permissions we had. We had an allow open, which we are still using. And now we had an allow write, but now we are doing instead a write text file. So let's get the build there. All right, we have our build. We'll open up this. We add a new item. We still do need the write though. All right. This and this. There we go. It really errors out hard. Like I don't think I've got any like auto file saving on. Maybe I accidentally turned it on at some point where it's just saving every time I make a change. But it's crashing pretty hard if I make a bad change. All right, new. Okay, fs write not allowed. Oh. bad copy and paste or something, I guess. Open this. Hello. Open that. And our items are still awful, but like it works. So it's overwriting it, which is what we want now. But for some reason, still those items are not coming in right, which is frustrating. But we'll figure it out. Calling a JSON.stringify and to-do.items. To do is calling an append. We don't actually have a. We're passing this to-do.items. And we are, anytime we make a call, we are giving it the items. So when we make the items, we're going to get the previous items. So what we can do is say previous items dot concate and the to do item. There we go. And whatever, we'll just put this in there for right now. It'll be fine. Because we just want to see some actual like content in there. And I think I'm gonna end up switching the library out, but we'll worry about that later. So now we press the plus button. That gives us the file, and now we have created the file if it doesn't exist, and we have saved the path to it. Now when we add an item, it is going to update the file with the content. There we go. And now every time we do something with this, it's going to write it out. And that seems to go pretty fast. The write out seems to go pretty well. So now if we keep our state in memory, anytime we do any actions on that state, then we save out the file. And we could do that in an async manner, but right now we're doing back to back, and that will basically give us a file that mirrors what we have in an in-memory state. I think this will work pretty good. So then from there we can operate on an in-memory state and kind of go from there. We'll be able to use this like a to-do list. Like I can delete. This should update. Although it's not going to now because what we did was just show the previous items. So now it should update. There. I think this will work. I think we're gonna switch out the React stately though. For what I want to do with this, I don't think it's gonna scale the way I want it to. So that's gonna be a next time thing though. We've been going for almost 3 hours. So next time I think either we're gonna do Loro.dev. Is that Loro.dev? Loro.dev. Oh, I was coming up there. Yeah, Loro.dev. Or we continue tinkering on this a little bit. I think the next two. Actually, no. Let's do this next week. We'll work on this next week, and we do Loro.dev the following week. I think we swap out React stately. We've got some good progress here, and we swap out React stately, and then we try to hook it up to WebSockets. I think the library that I want to use should work well with this, and this sort of like
paradigm, how we're hooking it up. But then also I think I should have some code where we can copy and get the WebSocket connection set up pretty quickly. We'll WebSocket to OBS. OBS will give us timestamps, and then we'll probably be at like a good 80-90% at that point. So I think that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. I can tell I didn't get. I feel like I never get great sleep on Mondays. Monday night is just. I wish there was potentially a more convenient time. I already had to bump this back. I had to bump back the start time because meetings clashed, and I was unable to move the meeting. But it is what it is. Either way, I feel like we made some pretty decent progress with the file system API. I don't mind it. I feel like I've heard some complaints about how it operates, but having a little bit of background already working with the permission system, I haven't. It doesn't feel too onerous. I think maybe one slight aside. Well, I guess not really an aside, but I think I'm going to end up pulling in star effects. Eric does some interesting work. This is in some ways like a spiritual successor to Redux Saga, and it's using a library called Affection, which is we've done it on stream a little bit. It's been a while though. Affection is part of the or owned by or written in with my employer, front side. It is a structured concurrency library, and I think it'll work pretty well for like this as an ideal. What StarFX is bringing on top of Affection is effectively you can write like middlewares, so we can have the WebSocket connection and these file system operations as like middlewares effectively. And then I think we'll be able to basically extract out our operations to where we're just calling like an add or delete, and we have an in-memory state, and then that just gets synced up in the background based off of these like reducers or whatever that we write. Funcs is the terminology that's used in this ecosystem. So I think that'll work better for a mental model for this, and I'm already sort of like into this library and digging that those patterns. So next time though. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Thanks for hanging out and chit-chatting. I always appreciate it. I love the questions. I will see you next week. We'll hopefully knock the rest of this out, or at least very close, and start using it. Otherwise, have a great rest of your week. Happy Tuesday. Bye.